space. She started out in the product management space by taking product-related courses on Coursera, Product School, and also participating in a threefold product management masterclass. She recently graduated from Black Valley's mentorship program as a product manager mentee. Okay, so she's a 2020 BMGA fellow, and at her leisure, she loves reading books, speaking at events, just like she'll be speaking this evening, and making new friends. Yeah, so this evening, our speaker, Messi Ajiboye, will be speaking on product management. Most of you want to get into product management space. Yeah, so you'll be hearing directly from the product manager. And yeah, so Miss Messi Ajiboye, yeah, you're welcome on board. Can you just unmute and say hello to everyone?
All right, Isaac, good evening.
Yeah.
Please can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, great. So good evening, everybody. I'm privileged to be here, and thank you very much, TechSemester, for having me.
All right. Yeah. So thank you, Miss Mercy Ajiboye. She'll be starting right away. So if you do have your jotters, your pen right with you, you could just jot one or two things because there will be time for questions.
Can I be my network?
Questions and answers.
Okay, Isaac, I don't know, you were first to meet, but I think maybe my, but can you guys still hear me? Oh, I think it's my network. Let me just switch.
Yes,
let me just quickly switch my network to. Oh, all right, great. Thank you very much. So I think I will just switch my network regardless, so that I have issues while we start. So. So can I go ahead, Isaac? Because I had to switch my network for some time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great.
Right now. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much for that wonderful intro, Isaac. So like Isaac rightly said, I'm going to be speaking on product management today, and let me just quickly share my screen so that we can continue. Please, can you guys confirm that you can see my screen?
Yeah, sure, we can.
All right, great. So yes, so good evening, everybody, and welcome to TechSemester session. As rightly introduced, my name is Messi Ajiboye, and I'm really excited to be here today. So I'm going to be speaking on product management. And because I'm sharing my screen, I might not be able to maybe see some of your interactions in the chat, but I'll just like to ask that how many of us are conversant with the term product management? Like we've been hearing about it. I think product management is one of the, fields in tech that almost everybody wants to go into because, you really do not require coding skills to be in that space, right? So I'm going to be talking to you guys about everything about product management, and let's continue. So for today's presentation, right, so I'm going to be talking about product management on different sub-headings, right? I'll start with what is product management. I'll start it with, I'll also continue to why is it important. I'll also talk about the skills needed, both technical and non-technical skills that you need to be a product manager. I'll talk about the role of the product manager. Then I'll run us through who they work with and specialization in the field. I'm also going to be talking about the job description, and finally, communities and organizations that you can learn from. Okay, so moving on, what is product management, right? So I'll just quickly want to, paint a background story for us. Initially, I think I first of all got to know about product management when I was in, say, that was 2018, 2019, because I finished school 2019, 2020 in IFE. So I just got to know about product management. That was around 2018, 2019. So to me then, product management was something that was still pretty much like just coming to to the limelight, right? But the issue of product management is as far back as 1931, when, P&G, HP, and all of them, they just realized that they needed some people to just sort of manage some of the things they were building at the time, right? And even when we initially had Facebook, right, the CEO of Facebook in person of Mark, I'm sure when he was building Facebook, probably there was no like a lot of effort put into the product management side of it, because product management was still relatively new then, I think as far back as 2007, right? So product management, as I have it on my slide here, is talking about how that product management is basically about identifying and defining problems, right? It is not just good that, okay, you know that there is a problem, right? You should be able to define the problem now. Now, what do I mean by defining the problem? For example, let's assume that I know Testimony, she's a very good friend of mine, and I know she's a student of Uni, right? And then maybe one day myself and Testimony were chatting on WhatsApp, and I asked her, Testimony, how was your day? And she's like, oh, my day is not fine. Okay, why is your day not fine? Now I'm trying to paint a scenario on how you define problems, not just identifying the problem, right? So she says her day is not fine. I'm like, okay, why is your day not fine? She'll be like, oh, I missed lecture and the lecturer took attendance and gave an impromptu test. And I'm like, oh, why did you miss the lecture? She cannot be like, I slept off. Okay, so why did you sleep off? She cannot be like, okay, maybe the alarm, I forgot to set my alarm, or my alarm clock did not ring or something. And I go ahead to ask, okay, so why did you forget to set your alarm, or why did your alarm clock not ring, right? And she's like, maybe she does not have anything to remind her to set the alarm before she sleeps off or something. So you would agree with me that because I was consistent in asking the question why, I was able to really get to the root cause of Testimony's problem, right? So is she just telling me that she missed lecture is fine? I was able to identify the problem at that period in time. Okay, Testimony missed lecture, that's why she's not fine, right? But defining the problem is about you knowing the root cause of that problem, right? And that is what product management is about. So at its core, it is about identifying and defining problems. All right. So so product managers are often the drivers, right? They're often CEOs driving the development, launch, improvements for their futures and products end to end. So what this statement simply means is that, okay, in any tech firm or in any company whereby product managers are being used, or there is a role called product management in the company, right? They're usually the people that are in charge of a particular product. Like CEOs, the way you have the CEO of a company, the CEO is always bothered about, we making sure that we are meeting the business targets, we are meeting the business goals, right? The company is earning income, we're having more revenue and all of that. So the product management is responsible for, the development from idea to building to launch to improvement of a product end to end. So they're like the CEOs, they're responsible for the success of a product. And product managers, right? So for short, PMs, they answer the following question: what are we building? Right? You have to know what you are building. And the question of what are we building stems from what is the problem our users are having. All right. So, it is when you know the problem of these people, when you've been able to identify and define their problem, you can now go ahead to say, okay, so this is the root cause of Testimony's problem. She forgot to switch on her alarm clock. All right. Okay, what if we build this? We have this application whereby it can probably be giving her notifications, right? That, okay, don't forget to set your alarm before you sleep or something, or maybe even a smartwatch that will just remind you to set your alarm for this particular time before you sleep. So I'm just citing that as an example. So we have to know what we are building, right? Product managers are also answering the question of who are we building for? So in this case, my target user is, I'm sure it is not just Testimony that will have that type of issue. There are other students like ourselves, right, that will be faced with that particular problem. So Testimony is just an example of a user, right? There's another user who is also faced with the same problem, but maybe not exactly the same. For example, and that person's case might not be that they missed lecture. It might be that, okay, maybe they got to the office late, and that was because they slept off and they woke up late and they forgot to set their alarm before sleeping, So you have to know who we are building for, the different user personas. You also have to know why are we solving this problem. Now, the reason why we are solving this problem at the end of the day would be that, okay, to put smile on Testimony's face so that she's no longer angry. It can also be that to help her be more productive, right? It can also be that to help her so that next time she will not miss her lecture. So those are like the benefits. Why are we solving this problem is more like the benefits your users will get at the end of the day when they start using your products. And finally, when are we building this, right? In as much as we know that in life there are time and seasons. The Bible says that, I'm sorry, I'm actually a Christian. So the Bible says that there are time and seasons for everything underneath the earth, right? So even in product management, we have to understand that there are times and seasons. You have to know when to strategically position your product, okay? So moving on, please, if you have any question, just do well to type it in the chat and I'll take it from there. So moving on, the next question I have is, why is product management important? You would agree with me when I started, I gave the story of Facebook that, when Facebook initially, when Mark was initially building his products, I'm sure the first set of people he had on his team would be maybe himself and some few friends that are like software developers like himself, because I know that before he dropped out of school, I think he was studying computer science or something, right? So you have to understand that why is it important. So product management, if product management was not relatively like that, the way we have software development, like everybody should really know how to code today. So why do we really need product management, right? So the first thing I have here on my slide is that bringing products to market is more complicated than ever, right? More complicated than ever in the sense that, see, there are a lot of competitors in the market. See, building a product that is successful is really hard. It's very, very easy for you to build a product that it will fail, right? But you building a product that was successful, for example, Facebook, for example, Instagram, for example, Twitter, that would really stand the test of time, right? It is very, very complicated. Even if there might be some set of co-founders somewhere trying to build something similar to Twitter, trust me, before they'll be able to gain that entry into the market and have some of us that are currently on Twitter maybe start using their own product or app that they are building, it will take time. And that is one of the reasons why product management is important, right? The next reason is because we need someone to focus on the user and the problem, all right? So, back in the days, I don't know, I'm just using Facebook as a case study, right? So I'm pretty sure when Max started building Facebook, it must have been that, okay, maybe there was no business person on the team. It was just focused on the coding part. Let me just build this thing. Okay, I know I have this problem of when I finish school, I might lose contact with my colleagues, and I really need to find a solution so that we don't lose contact with ourselves. Then maybe he got some few friends and was able to sell his idea to them, and they were willing to work for him for free based on the condition that if they're able to scale their products, we give them a stake in the company. And maybe that was how he was able to put his team together. But trust me, at the very first stage, I'm sure Mark's problem will not be that I really need somebody to focus on this problem or to focus on the Facebook that we are building, right? Because he himself is like that person, is like the product manager for his team, because his focus would largely be on how can I ensure that I do not deviate from the problem I'm trying to solve. The problem I think Mark was trying to solve then was, connectivity, connection between him and his classmates when they finish school, right? That is the problem. So in building the solution, your focus has to be on the problem, right? And it is very, very easy these days that, we have software developers that are going to have the code. When Isaac was introducing himself, he said he's an Android developer, right? So, sometimes Isaac too would agree with me that, for example, sometimes that if you're like trying to do your code and do all those things that you guys do, there are chances that you might deviate from the problem. Now, deviate in what sense? If you go to Shiko's Africa's website now, you would see that, when you go to Shiko's Africa website, you will see their color team, which is pink. Now, pink depicts a female color, but maybe because Isaac is a guy and he's like, well, I don't like pink color and I don't really know why this website should be pink in color. Maybe it's like, let's assume that Isaac is a front-end developer, that okay, does not see the reason why this website should carry the color pink, and maybe Isaac's favorite color is blue because TechSemester color is blue, right? Okay, I'll make it blue. Now, if I should go, right, missing speak before I order, the name is Chic just for females, but because it is also pink, it will tell me that, oh, this is like a female thing, right? But if it is blue in color, I'm seeing that my connection is unstable. Please, can somebody confirm that you guys can still hear me?
Yes, yes.
All right,
Yes, we
thank
can
you.
hear
Thank you,
you.
Isaac. All right, great. So yeah, so if somebody should now go on Shikot Africa and they see that their website is blue in color, right? It might not really cross their mind that this thing is gender specific. You know, color blue is kind of like maybe more like it tends towards a male color than a female color, or it might even be gender neutral. But pink, of course, everybody knows that pink is a lady's color, right? So the product manager would now at that point try to see that, oh, during the sprint planning, we decided that it was going to be pink and not blue. Just try to, make sure that people do not deviate from the initial problem they're trying to solve. Another thing is someone to orchestrate and get the team moving in the same direction. Product managers, they work with different people, which I will later talk about. They work with designers, they work with the software developers themselves, they work with they work with the user researchers, they work with the data scientists, like different people. So, and these different people, because they're working on different aspects, trying to just ensure that we have a successful product at the end of the day, they have to be somebody that is, bringing everybody together, like a glue that is connecting everybody together. And that is who your product manager is. Another thing is solving the right problems, right? So product management is important for us to solve the right problems. It is not just good enough that we are just solving problems. We have to ensure that we are solving the right problems for our users, solving the right problems in the sense that at the end of the day, right, the when our users are using the product, they find value, like the product gives them value. The product is really solving their problem and not just solving what we see as a surface problem. It's solving the root cause of the problem. Then finally, PMs act as ops, connecting various functions in teams across the company, right? So one of the why it is important is because, like I already said, because there are different people working on this product. There have to be somebody who is connecting everybody together and ensuring that we are all on the same page. So moving on, I'm going to be talking about skills needed, right? So some of the skills that you need as a product manager is number one, creating strategy, right? You have to be somebody who knows how to create strategy, right? I wrote here on my slide that the ability to map out the steps that needs to be taken in order to get the product to its full potential. Right, that is what creating strategy is all about. You would agree with me that, for example, iPhone 13 was released in, I think, September last year, and it would be very, very unwise for Apple to now release iPhone 14 in December of that same year, or even January, or we're currently in March. It would be very unwise for them to even release iPhone 14 in March. Why? Because number one, if they don't have that kind of like a gap between the release of that product, they wouldn't have had enough revenue on iPhone 13, because everybody's focus will now drift away from iPhone 13 to iPhone 14, right? So you have to be able to have that strategy, know when exactly to launch your product so that you will have a lot of users coming to sign up on your product. I think one thing to go, I think some of us that were really, comfortable with to go then would agree with me that to go was like the in thing before WhatsApp came, and almost everybody now is on WhatsApp. I don't think there's anybody still on to go, right? So the mistake I think the creators of to go did was maybe they were not strategic enough and they were not, innovative enough. And that is why people no longer use them. Majority of people all over the world now focus on WhatsApp than making use of to go. So that is where creating strategy comes into play. Then the next thing is communicating, right? So because product management is really at the center of, business, design, and technology, you have to be able to communicate to people. The CEO of the company can just come and ask you questions about the product. The engineering team lead might need to get insight about the product. The designer, the, researcher, like data scientists, like different people, different stakeholders so you have to be able to communicate to these different stakeholders, right, that are actually involved either directly or indirectly in the product. You also have to be able to communicate to your users. You have to be able to speak their language. You also even have to be able to speak the language of your developers, right? Because working with your developers, you have to, decide the time estimate for some tasks. You have to be able to create, know how long it will take to solve a story or epic or task as it may be or something, right? So these are you being able to communicate, right? So I wrote here on my slide that ability to easily translate between different audiences, user needs, design solutions, technical solutions. So different audiences could be that when you're talking to your CEO about the product, right? there's a way you talk to him about it, and there's a way you talk to your engineering team lead about the product. There's a way you talk to even your engineering team members. There's a way you talk to your project designer and so many people. So you have to be able to communicate at different levels to these different stakeholders or audiences, right? Another thing is you have to be able to coordinate, right? Coordinating, right? You have to be able to connect people across the team and share information in order to achieve business goals, right? So coordinating in the sense that, because the engineering team, they are not like an island, they're not like on their own working on the product, right? Though they have their own team, they communicate and do all sorts, but you also have to be able to bring together the engineering team, the design team, and every other stakeholder that has an input into the product you are building. So your coordinating skills has to be top notch, right? So another thing is responding to new information. Trust me, there's so many times that you'd have, worked on your PRD and you just realize that, oh, you need to make a change to a particular feature, or you just need to remove something from the roadmap and all of that, right? So, you have to be somebody who is agile, right? In product management, we call it, being agile, like agility. We have different agile methodologies and all of that. So this session is not focused on that, but what's responding to the information is all about is that you have to be able to, you have to be adaptable to change. You have to be open to change. Then finally, dealing with fires, right? Dealing with fires, more like you have to be able to deal with fires. This dealing with fires here is more like, there are going to be issues, there are going to be bugs, there are going to be times where whereby you guys need to have a demo, and that's when your this thing will now start breaking and so many things, right? So you have to be able to have your calm in those moments. You have to be able to constantly think on your feet. There are days whereby something will not just be going right, and you just, maybe that's when there's a user that is having difficulties in signing up, or even in the fintech space, for example, maybe a user is trying to make a transaction and there's no network and it's kind of urgent, there are days like that. So you have to be able to deal with all these situations. Okay, so for the technical side, so everything I just talked about now is more like the soft skills, the non-technical skills that you need. Though there are more than this, there is empathy, there is time management, and so many other skills that you need to have as product manager, right? So I'm just going to talk on the technical part. So the technical part is not that you necessarily need to know how to code. For example, I don't know how to code and I don't have interest in learning it, right? So you might really need to know how to code only if you want to be a technical product manager, right? So in the tech space, anything that has technical in front of it, be sure that role requires your knowledge of coding. So for a technical product manager now, you might maybe need to have basic coding skills like your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then you're good to go, right? So for me, I don't know how to code, so I'm more like a non-technical product manager in that sense, right? You have to know how to use some kind of tools like Jira, like Trello. Those are like the project management tools that we use in PMs. You have to be able to write PRDs, different components of your PRDs. So those are like the technical skills that you need to know. But trust me, when you go to upskill yourself, or when you're looking at transitioning into the space, these are things that you learn from whichever platform you want to learn them from. So don't be scared. Moving on, so the roles of a PM, right? I know that our time is fast spent, I just have to be fast, right? So the roles of a PM, PMs act as CEOs. Sorry, Isaac, I don't know, just let me know maybe if my time is fast spent, so I'll know how to move quickly, because I still kind of like have some couple of slides to touch on. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. So the roles of a PM, of a product manager, right? So they act as CEOs, like I already said, they act as CEOs for the product. So they are responsible for they are involved in the different life cycle of a product. Even when you launch your product managers are still involved in ensuring that, okay, you don't have a high churn rate, your product is successful, you're having the required revenue, like you have to just keep iterating, you just have to keep being innovative. For example, when WhatsApp initially was launched, we just had just the chat feature, then after a while, we now started seeing WhatsApp group chat feature, we now started seeing voice call, video call, and and I think at some point they even created one that is called WhatsApp Business, right? So a difference between WhatsApp Business and the normal WhatsApp is that on WhatsApp Business, you can have a catalog of all your products, but on normal WhatsApp, you can't do that. And that's because Though WhatsApp is solely for communicating with your friends, family members, or what have you, but WhatsApp business is solely for the purpose of communicating with your customers, right? So they really do not see the need why, if I'm just going to communicate with my friends, my family members, my coworkers, why do I really need to have a catalog feature, right? But they see that it is easier for some people to even communicate with their customers via WhatsApp than Instagram, and that is why they created a WhatsApp business, for example, right? So as a product manager, you are involved in the whole process. Maybe we've launched today and we want to add a new feature to our product. You are also going to be involved when the new feature is going to be added, when you guys will start the sprint planning, where you will launch, do everything you have to do. So that's the role of a PM. You act as a CEO for your product. Another thing is you drive team alignment, right? Driving team alignment is more like ensuring that everybody's on the same page, ensuring that what your designers, the mock-ups your designers want to come up with is exactly what you want to see in the product at the end of the day when your developers build it or when your developers write the code. You want to ensure that your user researchers are carrying out the right research on the target users that you have in mind. So you have to be able to drive team alignment. And that one is identify and define problem, right? So on a day-to-day, PMs and people who they're constantly just identifying and defining problems. I think I just have to say this at this point. A typical day is never the same in the life of a product management. So the way your yesterday went in the office is actually different from the way your today would go in the office, right? And you really cannot predict what your typical day would be like in product management. So that is how interesting being in the PM space is, right? So you have to constantly be able to identify and define problems. Another one is prioritize, right? Priority is really important. You have to be able to prioritize your features, what should go into our MVP, which is the minimum viable product, what should we not have, what should we leave for later. It's been very, very unwise for the creators of WhatsApp when they initially wanted to launch to add all the features. See, trust me, when they initially launched, as those people that built WhatsApp, I am not so sure, but I am assuming now that, okay, maybe they must have thought of the fact that let us also have this voice call and video call feature on it, right? But they were like, okay, no, let us just launch the chat first and see how people use it and accept it, and then we can now add new features later. Or they can maybe even get the feedback of chat and voice call when they were running user feedback. There are some of these products that you use and they'll tell you to give them feedback of how the app is or something, right? So it is from all those type of user feedbacks that these product managers, these people get, insight on how they can better serve their customers, right? So it is actually a very key skill for a PM to have, right? To be able to prioritize, right? It is actually, prioritization actually comes with strategy. If you really know how you want to be good with your strategy, you'll be able to tell what features should go into this MVP or into this product at this time or what shouldn't, right? So the next one is communicating, all right? So you have to be able to communicate, like I already said. There are some terminologies you use with your product designers, there's some terminologies you use with your user designers, user researchers, your engineering team, different people. The way you will even communicate with your CEO of your company, or even your boss, like maybe your senior product manager, or even your head of product or vice president of product, is different from the way you communicate with the CEO or the engineering team lead. So you have to be able to communicate, right? And finally, it's coordinating, right? You have to be able to coordinate, right? Coordinate these people, because you're going to be reporting to different stakeholders, right? Different people are going to be coming to meet you to get information about the product, right? So you have to be able to coordinate. Out. Moving on now. So who PMs work with and their specialization. I will be rounding off soon. So I have here like different roles that PMs work with, but trust me, some of these roles, some companies do not necessarily have all these roles. Okay, but like in its entirety, these are like the people that product managers are going to work with in an ideal tech company. For example, Google, Microsoft, or Facebook, as we have it, right? So the first one I have here is user researchers and designers, right? So your user researchers are the ones that, like the story I gave about me just asking testimony, why, just to really know the root cause. So the product managers oftentimes go with the user researchers, and even sometimes some software developers actually go with these people to actually carry out research to know the problem that their target users are really facing, so they will know how to solve the right problem. All right. And designers too. So your PM also work with designers, because you have to ensure that the mock-up they are coming up with is exactly how you want to see the product when the product eventually launch. Okay. So the next set of people is engineering team. You have to constantly ensure that they are working according to plan. They are working according to what you have in your roadmap. They are building the right features and not doing something else, right? Then technical and not technical program managers, right? So program managers are more like, product managers are people that focus on one product at a time, right? So program managers are more like people that manage the team. Now, what do I mean? Right? So product managers, they're focused on the product, right? So program managers are those that are focused on managing different product managers, right? So they're kind of like, it's more like, as a product manager now, I might have to be reporting to the program manager, because the program manager is going to be involved in overseeing all the products that a company is doing at a particular time, right? So, we have to work with both technical and non-technical. I already explained what technical and non-technical is about. So technical is more like they work directly with the technical team. You have to know how to code. You have to know how to speak the language of your developers. And non-technical, somebody like myself, I don't really need to know how to code, right? They're just like general people. They just have like general knowledge. Then the next one is quality assurance. For every code you write, you have to be able to trace the code in terms of testing, right? We have different types of user testing, testing that we carry out on the product. I'm not going to be diving into that today, but quality assurance actually ensures that your code is actually without bugs, right? If you have bugs, you have to be able to document the type of bug it is and ensure that it is being solved by the product manager, by the engineers before the product is launched. Then the next one is data scientist, right? It's always good for you to make decisions based on data as as a PM. You have to be able to, get data from the data scientist. How many people signed up on this product today? How many churn rates do we have? What is the rate of, referral? What is the rate of, just try to base your how you want to do things. Just make sure that you can easily back up your decisions with data, because it doesn't make sense that you're just assuming that if we launch this product, we are most likely going to get this also number of users sign up. Who told you that? Have you carried out your research to really know how willing people are going to use your product, right? So that is where data scientist comes in. PMs work with them to sort of get insight on data so that they'll be able to make their decisions based on data. And another one we have is marketing and PR. So marketing and PR, they are those that kind of like create the buzz around the launch of a particular product. For example, iPhone 14, I think is most likely going to be launched towards the end of this year, maybe around September, October, and others Apple conference that will have that a lot of iPhone users will join to just sort of see the new feature that is coming with iPhone 14, to just sort of just create the awareness for people to know that, oh, we are doing this. That is where your marketing and PR comes in, right? They're the ones that plan the campaigns, they're the ones that plan the launching. So they work with the PMs to decide when is the right time for us to launch this product. Then the next one is sales. And sales, they're like the people that sell the product. They try to build relationship with customers to ensure that people can even refer their friends to use a particular product. And then we have support. So support are like the people that help to, when people are having issues trying to navigate their products, right? So support, sometimes when we sign up on some website, we'll see a pop-up just by the side, like a chatbot asking us that, okay, are you having issues doing anything, or do you have problem? Just talk to us. So that is like a support function in play. So in some companies, marketing and PR sales and support are like the same thing. So a marketing person is also doing the work of sales and support. But in some companies, some really, really large companies like Google, they might have all these as different departments. Then second to the last, we have legal and privacy. There was a time, I think that was 2021 or 2022, 2021 or 2020, when we heard the news that CBN actually shut down or asked the likes of, I think, Bamboo and some other fintechs, Bamboo, Piggyvest, and I can't really remember now. They should stop operating based on the fact that maybe the sorry, somebody is calling me. Let me just message the person. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so as I was saying, there was a time that we heard the news of, Bamboo, Piggyvest, they have to shut down because they don't meet one particular regulation from CBN or something, right? So that is where your legal and privacy comes in. You need to have people on your team that are able to understand the regulations from Central Bank of Nigeria. If you are going to be operating in the fintech space or even in the health space, you have to ensure that you are meeting some particular policies, right? You are actually considering some particular policies before you build your product or even before you launch it. Then finally, we have internationalization team, right? These are the people that, are responsible for taking the product to other companies, right? Translating it to their languages, just trying to understand the users and how they use the product. The way we use the product in Nigeria would be different from the way people in the US or people in the UK would use a particular product. Don't be surprised that WhatsApp in some countries is actually not like you cannot type in English. Maybe you might have to type in French for countries like maybe France, for example. You might have to type in French for Spain. You might have to start typing Spanish and those other things, right? So the team that are responsible for these things, they're actually the internationalization team, and as the PM, you work with these people as well. So in terms of specialization, on my slide, I have it that we have some data PMs. So data product managers are those that are going to be focused on data, just carrying out data research, just ensuring that we back up your this thing with data and so many things, right? Then we have the growth PMs. So the growth PMs are those that are just ensuring that you are able to get a good number of users to sign up on your product. Then we have software and hardware. So software is more like all these apps on website that we have. They're like product managers that work on that particular apps on website. And we have hardware PMs. There are those like, for example, we have different iPhones with different sizes, with different shape, design, and all of that. So your PMs are going to be maybe responsible for that in terms of compatibility and every other thing that we have. Then moving on, the job description of a PM. So because I'm going to be sharing this slide, I won't be opening any of these things, but there are links, right? So when I share this slide, you guys can have access to it. So I actually have here the JD of a typical PM role, PM intern role, right? This is actually the one from Decagon, my company, and you really the differences between these roles is because experience, right? So as a PM, any year of experience, you just need to have the willingness and maybe passionate about product and some other things, right? So in some companies, an associate product manager can be an entry-level product manager like a PM intern. And in some other companies, it can be somebody who has about 1 to 2 years of experience in PM, right? So the job description too can also be different from that of a PM intern. Then a product manager will, of course, that one we're talking about years of experience from like 4 years and above. You have to like maybe build a product that's currently launched in the market and people are using it on so many different things, right? So don't let me dwell into that because I see Isaac's camera is already on. So maybe he wants to prompt me that my time is almost over.
We are running out of time this evening. So I will
Yeah,
still have a couple of questions for you. So,
yeah, I'm almost done.
all right, thank you.
Whoa, okay. So I'm almost done. So finally, communities and organizations, right? So communities that you can join. I'm a member of some of these communities. Black Valley. In my profile, I was like a mentee for Black Valley. Then Black PM Network. We have PM Africa. We have Women in Product. We have a lot of them, right? So just do your research and join whichever one you need. Then organizations, of course, Treford. I started out my career in Treford, right? So Treford, Utiva, Product Type, there are lots of them. I've taken courses on Product School. There's also Udacity there for you. So just check these communities and organizations and take your courses and you're good to go. Then questions and yes, so you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, right? So thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Yeah, pause sharing.
All right, that was a
Thank
very powerful
you.
session. Thank you, Mercy. It was indeed a very great session. So yeah, we have questions in the chat room. We just take a few of them. You could just provide answers to the questions because most of them are eager. These are most of them are just getting into tech, so they are just getting into that space or might want to get into that space. So it's best to just hear or we hear you answer your questions. Okay, yeah. So someone asked here, say from Larry says that thank you, faculty, a very brilliant presentation indeed. Are there any similarities or differences between product management and project management? Would you just look at that quickly? What are the similarities or differences between product management and project management? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that question. It is interesting that I actually had to do with that question when I was speaking with somebody this morning, right? So, the difference between product and project management is basically the timeline of your product, the timeline of what you're working on. So, product management, after you launch your product, you just have to keep innovating, just keep iterating, adding new features. But a project is more like maybe once you are done launching your product, like you're done, like that is the end of that project. And for some companies, right, for some companies, like I was explaining the difference between product management and program management at that time. So I was like, program management, they're like those that are like in charge of several products. So for some companies, project managers are like those that are in charge of several products. So everything just depends on your company and what your company is really comfortable using. Some companies are not comfortable using associate PM. They would rather use maybe PM interns, and some companies are not comfortable using senior PMs. They would rather use just PM and head of product or vice president of product. So it all depends on your company, but the difference is actually the timeline of what you're working on, right? So projects are usually in the sense kind of like maybe short-lived, then maybe product, it's something that you just have to keep working on. So that's it for me.
Wow. Thank you so much. I believe the person that asked the question must have gotten, yeah, thank you for that very broad explanation. Okay, yeah, another question quickly. Someone is asking, of course, we know that young people like us, we are always excited when it comes to the money part, like everybody wants to blow, right? Want to get bands, want to get latest cars and all. So if I want to get into product space, I think it's proper. I know the kind of salary range you guys earn. Like I can see you're fresh and I can still tell that you're earning big salary. So one guy asked the question here that you should talk about the salary. Yeah, what kind of expectation should we look at when you get into this space, when you become a project manager? What kind of salary range do you expect? Yeah, thank you.
All right. So the salary of a product manager, it can actually be exciting, right? But trust me, it cannot be as exciting as a software developer. It cannot be as exciting as a software developer, but it is kind of like exciting. But trust me, a senior PM might not be earning as high as a senior developer in a company, some companies. So it depends. For example, an associate product manager in Nigeria or like a PM intern cannot be earning nothing less than 150K. Then when you're now looking at becoming like a mid-level PM, your salary would be around 300 to 500K. Then maybe a senior PM cannot be above 500K to whatever. So it all depends on your company, right? There are some PM roles that your salary would be around like a millionaire and above. So they are different. It all depends on your company, but a PM, an entry-level PM cannot be any less than 150K. Entry level cannot be any less than 150K. Yeah. So that's it.
Okay, yeah, so thank you. So the person that asked the question, I believe you've gotten your answer as regards the salary. So yeah, 150K, you're a big boy if you start earning that. Okay, yeah, so that is that about that. If we do have any other questions, let me check the chat room. Okay, there are no other questions. So to wrap up this evening session, this program, yeah, what's one advice for beginners like me, like other people that want to go into product management anytime soon? What would you, in conclusion, what learning curve would you advise? What kind of courses should I take? And all in all, can you just put it in just a sentence? What would you advise me to do, or other beginners here? Thank you.
Okay, what I would advise you to do is just start taking courses online, right? There are lots of free courses online. Like there's a mentor of mine in the PM space that she compiled something, like a resource for each of the terminology. Some of you would hear me using PRD, some of you would hear me using MVP and roadmap. So she compiled like resources online, like articles that try to explain each of these things. So, oh, I should have actually included that in the slide. I think I will do that before I share it with testimony to give you. So just start learning, just start learning. Then you can reach out to me, you can reach out to testimony, reach out to Isaac. I'm sure they'll have some people that they can point you to. Then join communities. The easiest way to learn is to join communities. Whenever you're reading something on your own and you don't understand, ask the question on your community. People will answer you. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So then we take the last question. Yeah, you could check the chat from some of our guys are just ailing you that was a very smart presentation, smart and brilliant. Of course, we should expect that from a first class graduate. Okay, yeah. So my own personal question before we wrap up today's session is, okay, of course, we know that in software engineering world, I get to code, and if I'm a beginner, if I'm learning, for instance, HTML and CSS, as I'm coding the thing, I get to see what I'm building. I get to iterate. If there's an error somewhere, I can just change this color, change this. I can see the mistakes and work on them. But for a beginner in product management, how do I get to I'm trying to look at the reality now. How do I get to tell people that, oh, I've taken a couple of courses online. How do I get to practice my learning, what I've learned so far? How do I get to practice them in the real world where I can easily stand to say I'm a product manager in them? Or yeah, could you just say something
Okay,
about
so
that?
practicing it, what our advice is, have your portfolio, right? Two things. Have a portfolio, then just work on some imaginative products in your head. So what do I mean? Working on imaginative products in your head, in product management, you'll come across things about PRDs. So you just write a PRD for. You see, carry like a WhatsApp, your WhatsApp app, all of your phones, carry like your WhatsApp or whatever application you are using, right? Write a PRD for it, for a new feature that you want to see on WhatsApp. Write a PRD for it. Go on LinkedIn, talk about it, share the link to the PRD. PMs will look at it. That's about sharing it. Another thing you can do is have a portfolio, right? I currently do not have one, but before the end of the year, I'm looking at getting one for myself. So have a portfolio, everything that you have worked on, just have the link to all those things there. Then what I would say is just keep sharing your knowledge. There was a time that I learned something on product one. The CEO of product screen himself checked my profile, and I'm like, wow, this is somebody that all those white people, you send them connection, they will not accept, but he voluntarily accepted, right? He did not even accept. He voluntarily reached out, and I had to accept. So all the things you are learning, right, put them on LinkedIn. Write them on LinkedIn. If you learned about PRD today, put it. If you learned about roadmap, if you learned about mockups, if you learned about MVP, like different things or features prioritization, different things, just put it on LinkedIn. Just keep teaching people, then have a portfolio, then volunteer, right? Volunteer for so many things. Working as a program associate in Decagon, I'm not necessarily working in the product department. I'm working in programs, which is like a little deviation from product, right? But there was a time that I was doing something, and I reached out to the senior product manager in Decagon, and I told him that I want to work with you on this thing, right? And he gave me some work to do. I had to write PRDs. I had to just reach out to people. If you find yourself in an organization, do not in the product department, but you're interested in learning, or you're interested in product management, just reach out to people. Tell them you want to volunteer, work for them for free. That way you get experience.
Oh, yeah, that was very
Yeah, I have a
explicit.
call.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Really do appreciate. Thank you, Mercy. Oh, someone is asking a question. She's on a call. Let's just wait a couple of minutes and then we can take the final question.
Okay.
Okay.
So I should also share, since Messi talked about LinkedIn, Testimony actually is organizing a class on LinkedIn optimization, and it's one that you guys would really want to sign up for. I think she's been able to pull some amazing speakers. I'm wondering how she got them. So yeah, there's Mandarin Duka on the session, Oche Wright, and CJ. You guys might just want to ask her more questions about that on the Get in Tech platform to know how you can optimize your profile and better position it for public reach, even as you share your portfolio and your learning journey in the tech space. It's very much recommended. So you just ask her more questions about it, and I'm very sure she'll be willing to share.
Okay, thank you, Harmizi. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So last question, Messi. someone asked that what are the qualifications to become a PM? Just quickly, we'll take that. That's the final question. What are the qualifications to take to become a PM? What qualifications do I need to have? Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that question. Sorry, I quickly have to fly now because a rider is waiting for me outside. So qualifications, you don't really need qualifications. It will be interesting to know that I studied in Ife, agriculture, right? But now I'm in tech space. So you don't really need qualification. The only thing you need, right, is just have the passion, be passionate about it, right? So once you're passionate, let your passion drive you. Start taking courses. You don't really need qualification, right? Start learning. So make sure that as you're learning, you're practicing what you're learning. That's it for me, right? That's it for me. But for example, you can't really apply for some technical product manager role because you don't know how to code. So if you are interested in being a technical product manager, fine, you might need to have a basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But for myself, I don't know how to code and I'm not interested. So anything technical PM, you'll never see me do them. But every other thing aside technical PMs, I'm interested and I do them. So you just need to have the passion. Once you have the passion, start learning and be visible, put yourself out there, then practice what you are learning, share your knowledge with people and you're good to go. So you don't really need qualification. There are all those skills I talked on, soft skills, communication, empathy, time management, coordination, right? Those are things that you really need. Problem solving, critical thinking, right? Those are like soft skills that you need. And of course, soft skills can be learned. So just do your due diligence, research, just put in your work and you're good to go.
All right, thank you so much. Akinyemi, I believe you've gotten an answer to your question. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's session on Get into Tech and Product Management. Yeah, thank you, MSC.
Sorry, I have to go now. People are waiting for me. Sorry, bye,
Yeah,
everybody.
no problem.
So you can connect with me online. If you have more questions, just reach out. I'll answer your questions, okay? Bye.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you. Yeah, so guys, yeah, that brings us to the end of today's session. You could um, tweet about us, go on your social media platforms, write about what you've learned today, tag hashtag TechSemester.com. Could write about your learning, what you've learned today, share with other people. And then, yeah, we hope to see you in the next session. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining today's session. Bye.